what's up guys? This video is for section 8.1, which is adding and subtracting polynomials. So before we actually start adding and subtracting, let's understand what is a polynomial and some vocabulary that you also need to know when you see a polynomial. So on top of the screen here, you guys can see the word polynomial. So poly means, the root word means many. So you guys will have many. Nomial means terms. So we have many terms. So a polynomial is an expression with two or more algebraic terms with no variables under a fraction. So that's where the poly comes in. You guys can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on of number of terms. Now, what is a term? Well, a polynomial can have variables, exponents, plus and minus in between. It's just like an algebraic expression. So you guys see one here on the screen. And every term means that you have something with a variable, or you might have a number with no variable. So you see this term here, this is 3x squared, so that's one term. And then you're adding a 5x, that's a second term. And then you're adding a -7, that's a third term. So those two here are called variable terms. So you have the x squared term, because we have an x with the squared. This one is the 5x, or the x term, because we just have an x. Now this one doesn't have an x, doesn't have a variable, so this is called a constant. So that's one of the vocabularies you need to remember, constant. You guys have coefficients in a polynomial. So a polynomial, the coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables. So we have the 3 here, we have the 5 right here, 5 with the x. So those are called coefficients. This one is not called coefficient because it doesn't have a variable, but we say this is the constant or constant term. But usually I just say constant in my class. Leading coefficient. Leading coefficient is the number that has the variable with the highest exponent. So if you compare the x's, this one has a squared, this one has an invisible one here. So the highest exponent is 2, and 3 is the one in front of the x squared. So we do have a leading coefficient. So you can say this number here, the 5, is just a regular coefficient, and this one here is a leading coefficient. Now, when we talk about the highest exponent, the polynomial, remember it's just an algebraic expression, is in standard form when you guys have those exponents in order. And you always start with the highest exponent. So from the highest exponent, you go down to the lowest exponent, and the last one is going to be your constant. So a polynomial in standard form is with the highest exponent first, and then you go down to the lowest exponent. And it's always from left to right. So highest exponent is always first. And once you guys have the standard form for the polynomial, well, you guys can look at the first number, and that's your leading coefficient. Sometimes the polynomials are not in order. They're all mixed up, so you're going to have to move things around. Degree. The degree in a polynomial is just the highest exponent, and that helps us know what is the highest exponent in a polynomial. So let's say that someone tells you, oh, I have a polynomial with a degree of 3. Oh, that tells you the highest exponent in the polynomial is 3. Or the degree can be 5, degree can be 7, the degree can be 10. So degree is the highest exponent. So you always have the degree in standard form, with the first term right here. Now with the polynomial, remember poly means many, we can give a specific name to every polynomial depending on the number of terms it has or the degree that it has for the highest exponent. So I'm going to go into those names. You need to know the differences between a 1 term, a 2 terms, 3 terms polynomial, and also the degree. So you guys see some names here, and notice that I do have kind of like in order from top to bottom. We have the names depending on the number of terms that the polynomial have. So when you guys have 1 term, only 1 term, that's called a monomial. And you guys can see the root word mono. Mono means 1. So monomial is 1 term. What does it look like? You guys have an expression like this one here. There's no plus in between the x's or the variables and the numbers. So you just have everything together. This is just a monomial, 2x y squared. You guys don't need to have the y. So if you guys have a 2x, that's also a monomial. If you guys have a y squared by itself, that's also a monomial. So a monomial has only one term. Binomial, the second one, is when you guys have two terms, and you guys can see the root word bi right here. So bi means two, and that's when you guys have a plus or a minus in between the numbers and the variables. So we have one term, 3x squared plus 9. So you're adding something else to the 3x squared. So this is a binomial, 1, 2 terms. You also have a trinomial. A trinomial is when you guys have 3 terms, and you guys can see the root word tri right here, which means 3 terms, and this is what it looks like: x squared plus 5x minus 10. So this is one term, this is the second term, and this is the third term. You have a plus and a minus in between. So x squared plus 5x minus 10. Trinomial. We also have a quadrinomial, and you guys see the root word quad right here, which means 4 terms. And what does it look like? Well, you guys have an x cubed minus 22x squared minus 11x plus 1. 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and 4 terms. So look at that quadrinomial. We can say that the x squared term is this one here because it has an x squared. So we have a minus, keep the sign of the number in front of that number. So we have a negative 22x squared. That is your x squared term. You can tell me the x cubed term. X cubed means 3, and we'll look into that name in a little bit. But the 3 here, x cubed, x to the third power, is your x cubed term. You guys can tell me the constant. Constant is the number with no variable, plus 1. Some examples that are not polynomials is on the bottom. You guys see that we have a fraction here, x plus 3 over x cubed, or to the third power, plus 2x. So when you guys have a fraction and variables on the bottom, that is not a polynomial. So this one is not a polynomial. And this one is another example. 5x squared plus x over x to the fourth power is not a polynomial because you guys have an x on the bottom of the fraction. You guys can have a regular fraction in a polynomial. For example, if you have 1 over 2 here, that's okay. Let me just make a 1 over 2. I'm going to put a 1 on the top, 1 over 2 x y squared. That's okay because 1 over 2, the 2 is on the bottom of the fraction, but we don't have a variable on the bottom. So we are going to look at degrees for the next slide, and we are going to know the name depending on the degrees of the polynomial. So these are the number of degrees, or the degree of the polynomial, and the name depending on the degree. So we have a degree of 0, and a degree of 0 is just when you guys have a constant. So a constant will be something like a negative 3. So that's a degree of 0. If you guys have a positive 7, that's a constant. So that's a degree of 0. A 13, that's a constant. It's just a degree of 0. So any number with no variable has a degree of 0. We have a degree of 1. So that's a linear. That's the name of degree of 1. And what's a degree of 1? Well, you guys have an x with an exponent of 1. And this one has an invisible 1. Let me just put the 1 there so you guys know that's an invisible 1. So that's the highest exponent, the degree of 1, and the name is a linear. So you guys can say that's a linear polynomial. Linear because degree is 1. We also have degree of 2, and degree of 2 is a quadratic. The name quadratic means degree of 2. Why is degree of 2? Well, the highest exponent is 2 in the polynomial, degree of 2. We also have a degree of 3, and that is called a cubic polynomial. So the highest exponent is 3. Notice we have an x cubed plus 5x squared minus 2x minus 11. So this one has an invisible 1 here. This one has a 2 exponent. So the highest exponent is 3. So that's a cubic degree of 3. We also have degree of 4. So degree of 4 is quartic. So we have the highest exponent 4. So you see that polynomial x to the 4th minus 10x cubed minus 17x, degree of 4. And the last one is a degree of 5. So we have a quintic, and highest exponent is 5. You guys see that polynomial here, x to the 5th minus 4x to the 4th plus 2x minus 7. Highest exponent is 5. Now guys, you can put the two names that I show you guys, the two types of names, together in a polynomial. So I'm going to tell you guys what I mean. This one we know has a degree of 5, so the name we can say is quintic. But if you count the number of terms, this is one term, this is a second term, this is a third, and this is a fourth term. So this is a quadrinomial. It has 4 different terms, but the name, the degree is quintic. So we can say this is a quintic quadrinomial. And that's the name you guys can give to a polynomial, quadrinomial. You can also give a name to this one here. We have a quartic, and we count the number of terms, 1, 2, 3. So this is a quartic trinomial. You can look at the degree here, which is cubic, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a cubic quadrinomial. This one is a quadratic binomial. It has 2 terms. And this is a linear binomial, and this is just a constant. We don't have a real name, just constants for the number with no variables. Just keep in mind, guys, a polynomial, poly means many, so it doesn't stop here. When you guys look at polynomials, degree of 5, that's not the highest one. We have a degree of 6, 7, degree of 8, 9, degree of 10, degree of 11, degree of 20. But we don't usually go to those polynomials. And if you guys have something that has a high degree of 5, we don't have a specific name. We should say degree of 8. If you have the highest exponent is 8, or the highest exponent is 11, we should say degree of 11. But when it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, well, we can use these specific names: quintic, degree of 5, quartic, degree of 4, cubic, degree of 3, quadratic, degree of 2, and linear, degree of 1. Same thing with the binomial, trinomial, quadrinomial. After quad, 4 terms, quadrinomial, we should say 5 terms, 6 terms, 7 terms, 8 terms. We don't have a specific name, but you also can put the names. If you have a quartic quadrinomial, you guys can put those names together, and that tells us a person what the polynomial is. If you guys say cubic binomial, cubic means 3, degree of 3, binomial means 2 terms. So the polynomial has the highest exponent 3, and it has 2 terms. All right, so let's go ahead and practice and look at or find the degree of specific monomials in this slide. And then we're going to find degrees of different polynomials. Now these ones, they're all monomials. So we know that it's already one term. Mono means 1. Now when you guys have a monomial, to find the degree, you are going to add all the exponents in the variables. So when you look at this monomial 7x, there's only one variable, and that exponent is 1. So my degree is 1. Now the name of degree of 1 is linear. So this is a linear monomial. When you look at the second monomial, 2x cubed y, we have 2 different variables, and the y has an exponent of 1, and the x has an exponent of 3. So when it is a monomial, one term, you're going to add the exponents of the different variables. So the exponent here is 4, and the name of a degree of 4 is quartic. So we say this is a quartic monomial. And the last one, guys, well, it's just a constant, -5. It doesn't have a variable, so my degree is 0. And when you guys have a degree of 0, the name we use is just constant. And it is just a constant because it's just a number with no variable. So this is a constant, and it's a monomial because it's only one term, but it's just a constant. Now, if you guys have different polynomials, now this is where you guys have to count the number of terms, and the degree of the polynomial is not adding the exponents, it's just the highest exponent. So when you guys have 2 terms, binomial, 3 terms, trinomial, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you go on to the polynomial many terms, it's just the highest exponent. If you guys have a monomial, 1 term, that's when you add the exponents of the variables. But this one is not, the ones you guys see on the screen are not monomials. We have to figure out how many terms it has. So for this first polynomial, we have a 2x squared plus 1. The highest exponent is 2. So I'm going to put degree of 2. And I'm going to have the name of that polynomial. So the degree of 2 is quadratic. So I'm going to put that name first, quadratic. And it has 2 terms. This is 1 term, and this is the second term. So 2x squared is 1 plus 1 is the second term. So this is a quadratic binomial. So you guys can put those names together, quadratic binomial, degree of 2, and it has 2 terms. The next one, 5x to the 4th plus 6x, well, the highest exponent, look at the x's, this one has a 1, this one has a 4, so I'm going to highlight that 4 right there, and it is a degree of 4, which is a quartic, and that's the name of degree of 4, quartic, and how many terms? 2 terms, because we have a 5x to the 4th power, that's 1, and positive 6x, and that is the second term. So this is a quartic, degree of 4 is quartic, and we have a binomial. So let's look at the next one. The next one, we have 4x cubed plus 2x squared minus x. So the highest exponent here, it's 3. You guys see the x with the 3rd power. So when you guys have the degree is 3, highest exponent is 3, we say it's a cubic. So the polynomial is a cubic, and let's count the number of terms. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Minus x is the last one. So this is a cubic trinomial. The last polynomial is 5x to the 5th plus 2x to the 4th minus 6x to the 3rd minus 1. And the highest exponent on this one is 5. So this one is a quintic. So let me just put degree is 5 right here. And it is a quintic. And let's count the number of terms. 1 term, 2, 3 terms, and 4 terms. So it is a quintic quadrinomial. So you just count the number of terms. That's going to be quadrinomial, trinomial, binomial. It might be a monomial. You guys can look at the degree. It can be a quadratic. It can be a linear. I don't have a linear on this screen, but it's just a degree of 1. It can be a cubic, and you can put the names together. And it depends on the polynomial. You guys can have many combinations of the names. But we do have, for the last one, it's a quintic quadrinomial. When you guys look at the actual terms, once again, if I ask you guys what is the x cubed term, well, the x cubed, here's the x cubed, it's negative 6x cubed. So you guys have a minus 6x cubed. I can ask you guys for the constant. The constant is minus 1 or negative 1. So that's what you need to learn. You need to know the names of the polynomials depending on the degree, depending on the number of terms. You guys need to know the different parts of the polynomial. For the leading coefficient, that's 1 that you need to know. The degree, you guys need to know the constants, the coefficients, and so forth. So let's try and look for those components, those names or numbers that we need in a polynomial. So for this one here, we want to write the polynomial in standard form and identify the parts. So I'm asking for 3 different parts: degree, constants, and leading coefficient. Now, it's very important that you also know how to write the polynomial in standard form. So when you guys look at the standard form, that's when you guys have the polynomial in order, and you start with the term that has the highest exponent, and then you go down to the lowest exponent, and the last term is going to be the constant. So the one on the left side, we have a 3x to the 4th minus 4 plus 2x squared plus 5x cubed. So first I'm looking at the exponents, and the highest exponent is 4. So I'm just going to circle this one here. That's the highest one. So I'm going to write that term down first. I have a 3x to the 4th power. Now the next one, 4, when you go down, when you count backwards, 4, 3 is the next one. So the next one is plus 5x cubed. So I'm going to put here a plus 5x cubed. And when you guys count down, 4, 3, 2 is the next one. And the squared x squared term is right here. We have a positive plus 2x squared. So we have a 4, 3, 2. So the next exponent should be 1. X with the first exponent, power of 1. So I'm looking and I don't have an x by itself. That's okay. You guys can be missing one of those terms. That's what a polynomial does. You can have all the terms, or you guys can be missing 1 or 2 terms. So you guys go to the next term. So after we have a 4, a 3, a 2, we should have a 1, but the last one should be the constant. And the constant in this one is the minus 4. So I'm going to put minus 4 at the end, minus 4. So now you guys have the actual standard form. It is in order. Now you can look for the degree. The degree of the polynomial is the highest exponent. So 4 is right here. There's your degree, highest exponent. Constant is the number with no variable. So minus 4 is the one right here, minus 4. And leading coefficient is the number in front of the variable that has the highest exponent. And in this case is the 3. 3 has the variable with the highest exponent. So we're going to put 3 right here. And you guys have the leading coefficient. And it's the number in front of the variable. You guys don't use the variable. I've seen students write 3x as the leading coefficient. No x, no variable, just the number. Now the next one, you guys have 5 minus 2x cubed plus x squared. So I'm looking at the x's, and the highest exponent is 3. So I'm going to take this term, and notice it is a minus 2x cubed. So I'm going to have to keep the minus with the 2. You always keep the signs. So there's a negative 2x cubed. So this one here goes first. And when you count down, 3, 2 is the next one. So the next term should be the x squared, and it is positive, plus x squared. And the next one should be an x to the first power. Again, we are missing that term here. So we just go to the constant. And the constant is a plus positive 5 plus 5. So now you guys can look for the components. So my standard form, negative 2x cubed plus x squared plus 5. Degree is 3. That's the highest exponent right there. Constant is positive 5. That's the actual last number, the number with no variable. If you guys are missing a constant, let's say that there's no constant in the polynomial, well, we're going to write down 0. But right now we do have 5 at the end. And the leading coefficient, I'm looking at the standard form. And the standard form, the number with the highest the variable with the highest exponent is negative 2. So my leading coefficient will be negative 2. So you guys are learning those components in a polynomial. Now later on, guys, once you guys understand the degree, the constant, the leading coefficient, that's going to help you to grab a polynomial or a function as a polynomial. And that's where we're going. We are going to learn how to graph a quadratic function. You guys learn how to graph a linear function. You guys, if you go to Algebra 2, you guys will learn about cubic functions and different polynomials. So these components right here, degree, constant, and leading coefficient, is going to help you guys a lot to graph those functions. Okay, so this ends my first video for adding and subtracting polynomials. Make sure you guys practice your math, and if you guys like the video, you guys can subscribe or like my videos, and I'll see you guys later.